Hello and welcome to another episode of The Restore Mentor. On this episode, I'm going to be restoring this rather sad looking SNES console I purchased off eBay for around £10. As you can see, it's got a rather yellowed case, and also the sound's not working on it, and also the controller port's not working. First things first, what we're going to have to do is crack the case open, remove all the screws with a game bit driver. Yeah, nothing too technical, just take them out and then see what we're dealing with. The next step is to crack open the two halves and see what we're dealing with. Just break the top half off of the bottom half. On this occasion, it actually doesn't look too bad inside. There's a little bit of corrosion on the shielding, but nothing too bad. The circuit boards look okay. So yeah, generally needs to go clean up, and it should be good. The next step is to remove the ribbon cable connecting the controller port, or board I should say, to the main board. Now to remove the cartridge eject mechanism, just slide the pin out from the right and then you can lift the whole thing away. Now remove the metal shielding so you can get a better look at the actual main board. You also have to remove the 2 screws holding the main power switch in place. Just remove them, keep them safe. Also remove the 2 screws holding the cartridge port in place, and then you can lift the whole thing away. Now it's time to remove the main board itself from the lower section of the plastic casing. It's held in by screws. Just unscrew them and just check, because I believe they're different lengths on this, so yeah, make sure you know where the longer ones go back when reassembling. Years of grime accumulation in the lower part, pretty disgusting, but we shall clean that later. Now remove the upper shielding. It's screwed in through the back of the board, Like 3 or 4 screws, just remove them. And also you've got the one connecting the diode capacitor, I'm not sure, on the side, also to remove, to be able to lift the shielding away. Next, using a canister of compressed air. You can buy them online, they're pretty cheap. Just give everything a good dusting off. Now, using some alcohol and a cotton bud, you just want to give the main board a good clean. All the traces and so on would have accumulated a lot of grime over the years. You can also use a toothbrush, as you see me doing, just to clean off all the crud. Next step is to clean the cartridge port itself. This is important as it will help to eliminate the whole inserting and removal of the cartridge lots of times before you can get a game to load. Next, with the board still out of the actual plastic, I just plugged everything back in to give it a test to see if the steps I'd taken so far had restored the sound. It hadn't, so and also you can see some pixelation there. So yeah, on to the next step. So I turned my attention to the non-working controller ports. I decided to submerge them. As you can see, there's corroded pins in both of them. So I decided to submerge them in some just some white vinegar overnight. And yeah, this seems to have done the trick to get removed the corrosion. Next, using the online kit I purchased, I believe it come from Spain, I decided to recap the board. This is my obviously soldering a couple of caps on here just to show you. Just take your time. Obviously I'm not an expert at soldering, but if you've got a bit of basic knowledge, you can give it a go. Fortunately, after recapping the entire board, I tested it again and it still hadn't cured no sound problem. So in the end I decided to buy a reconditioned board off of eBay for a tenner, I think it was, so not too bad. And this obviously solves the problem. Next, you want to gather up all your plastic parts and submerge them in the sink in some hot soapy water and give everything a good clean off just to remove the years of crud accumulation. Next, to retrobright the discoloured plastics, you want to use some cream peroxide. You can purchase this off eBay and apply it liberally to all the yellowed plastic, as you can see I'm doing here. As I showed you earlier, I now place all the plastic parts on a PET heating pad I brought from China. This is to speed up the retrobright process, as I believe heat actually helps the process along. I then cover everything with cling film or a plastic bag just to stop the peroxide from evaporating too quickly. For the retrobrighting to work, I normally just leave it overnight. It's only a low wattage bulb, so don't use too much electricity. And yeah, just leave it overnight for it to do its stuff. Now for the fun part, reassembly. Just take your time and work through the different components. As you can see, the retrobrighting has worked really well. Yeah, like I say, just take your time and it's pretty straightforward.
This love that you never started. You want to